And down here at the bottom left-hand corner of Daybreak, we have our yellow Terran player from the team FXO CIS. It is the one and only BratOK, or King Joffrey. And in the top right-hand corner, we have our blue Protoss player from the team NSHoSeo. It is San. I joke about King Joffrey. It's BratOK's actually quite tall. He was a lot taller than I expected when I met him.
Definitely taller than King Joffrey.
Yes, but he does have a very similar appearance, if we're honest.
I would say very, very similar. I think BratOK's probably a much nicer guy than King Joffrey.
He is. BratOK was actually he was like one of the most nice pro players I've ever met.
StrCraft too.
Yes.
Nice team.
Yeah.
I love hanging out with those guys.
It was so funny because I've always considered actually Damaga to be just like one of like the happiest guys in pro gaming. He's just, I'm so happy to be playing StrCraft 2. I'm emotional about my wins, but it's amazing because I'm just a really cool guy. And so when I actually met BratOK and Damaga at the same time, and they both just had the biggest smiles at BlizzCon. They're like, "Ah, we're here. This is so cool. We're playing StrCraft, and I love life." Yeah. And it made me very happy for the future of pro gamers to meet them.
Must be an Eastern European thing.
I guess. They're just cool guys.
Yeah.
Well, now, so we have a PvT on Daybreak. This is a very cool map for PvT, if you ask me. Honestly, Daybreak's a good map for basically every matchup, except for TvT. I hate TvT on this map. It ends up taking 12 hours long and usually defaults into some sort of just mass siege tanks. That's all that happens.
5 base versus 5 base on this map,
Oh.
But it's sometimes you get really, really high action PvTs. A lot of times, though, you'll get to where it's like, all right, well, we'll just get up to 4 base, 200, 200, both of them, and then we'll smash our armies against each other until someone wins. So, you know, we saw Happy did that earlier in the tournament. He had a couple of TVPs, and one of them on this map where it's basically, all right, I'm just going to get up to 200 food, get like 20 ghosts, and then your army can't do anything, which is really, really smart. I don't think that's BratOK's style. BratOK tends to be a little bit more aggressive than wanting to sit back. You know, StrCraft sometimes will be the sit-back Terran.
Yeah.
But obviously if San wants to turn into that type of game, because even though he set himself up for a good 2-base attack last time, he ended up getting up to 3 bases, and it was a middle-range game, not so much a 2-base timing game.
Well, BratOK back on his side of things, going after that factory right away, and we've seen BratOK do this so often, just sits there with 2 on gas. In fact, BratOK, I often refer to it as the BratOK gas timing because he does it often enough, will go for 15 gas rather than that conventional 13 as a Terran player just so often. Looks like it was a little more normal, 13 gas this go around with the factory afterwards. Not second gassing though, so we'll see what he wants to follow this up with, but it could very well be an Uncloaked Banshee, could be a Marauder, not a Marauder, I'm sorry, a Marine Hellion drop. There's a lot of flexibility off of this build.
Yeah, it's obviously not Reactor Hellions because he would have started his Reactor now, but if I were to guess, it would be Marine Hellion. If not a drop, then certainly a harass of some kind, because there's really no advantage of going Hellions if you're not going to try to do some economic damage with it.
And he decides to put up that command center, second command center, at about the same time that we see a Nexus popping up for San. So San actually going down the 1-gate expand route. Nothing looking out of the ordinary for him at all, though. Robotics facility following this up. Certainly this won't keep you safe against early pressure. What this keeps you safe against is anything out of the ordinary, as he will be able to get in very quickly and scout his opponent.
He's actually going to have to be a little careful against what BratOK's doing, because if he's only going to have 1 or 2 Stalkers against Marines and Hellions, that can actually be really bad for his economy depending on the position, because at this point in the game, you don't have Warp in. It's hard to react to the Hellions in your base.
There is a Stalker that's going to pop up for, thankfully for San, about right in time.
Yeah, that's
it's
perfect
only
timing.
About 3 seconds away, so it shouldn't take too many losses. Now, San actually showing that he's a little bit scared here. A lot of Protoss players you'll see as this Hellion does get driven out of the base, actually killed. A lot of Protoss players, that they decide to go Robo into 2 more gateways, will put down that Robo around like 26, 27 supply we saw, then wait to like 35 supply to put down 2 more gateways. Those gateways came down right after the robotics facility, to the point where San actually had to cut a couple of workers, so he's really worried about an early attack here.
Could we look at BratOK's base? I saw him switch his reactor to something. Okay, so he switched it to barracks. I thought he might have been switching it to factory, so he's just going to go into heavy bio play from here.
Yeah, and doing almost a little bit of reactor powering with this factory just made the 1 Hellion to scout, put on pressure, things like that. And he did see the relatively early gateways. That may make him decide to sit back for a bit, but we'll see what he plans to do.
This is going to be... Oh, that's... I can't believe he missed that scout. That's going to be a huge scout if San manages to get that in the base. Because right now you're seeing kind of the select build, the 2 barracks into medevac drop, which looks like exactly what's going to happen. And the observer's going to see it, and he's going to know exactly what this is. If San had an aggressive build against this, then BratOK would be in a little bit of trouble because he only has 2 barracks. But as is, San might be in a little bit of trouble because those are really, really early medevacs, if that's indeed what BratOK's doing, and it is.
And San's going up now to a, where are you going, Probe? That Probe was mining gas. I don't know if you saw it. He popped out of the assimilator this way and ran all the way up and around.
Yeah.
What? I don't even, whatever. So, let's take a look now. Forge, single Forge coming up for San back on BratOK's side of things. He's got a massive Marines out. Stim just finished up, decided to prioritize that. Combat Shield's following this up as well with an engineering base. So, yep, bunch of Marines popping their way out, a few medevacs, but certainly a very interesting choice, an order of builds out of him.
This is a misplay by BratOK. He needs to scan that observer if he's planning on doing any drop play. Otherwise, San will just have stalkers waiting for wherever it is, and they're not really going to work. I'm surprised he hasn't noticed it by now. Usually, good Terran players will see the glimmer and scan immediately, but he's completely missed this, and San knows exactly where that army is going.
Yeah, so doesn't have to move any units out of position, just preparing with a couple more sentries and stalkers so we can lock some of those units down in place. Stim of 1 unit up for BratOK, and how heavily is he going to follow this up? Actually just running into 1 Zealot there. Very smart because San doesn't reveal everything that he has up at the front, even has that photon cannon there as well. I love Protoss players that are starting to include those in, because that alone can turn the tide against 4 or 5 Marines, and then the rest of your army can just work on cleanup.
Yeah, that's such a buffer, because cannons, without the medevac, they 2-shot Marines. I really love that play by him.
And Combat Shields is not finished up as well. That's a pretty big consideration. Now finally BratOK adding on a few additional Marauders, going up to a 3rd base as well. No real protection back at home, and still just working off of those 2 barracks.
Yeah, this is a pretty greedy build by BratOK. So he feigned pressure. He's like, here's my army, I'm going to come. And San's like, yeah, I see you're going to come. And then he just expanded, and now San is not going to see that CC until the observer makes its way all the way across the map.
That's
and
right.
That CC will be done by the time he sees it, and then San is going to realize how far behind he is, because now BratOK sees how much time he has. He can count the number of production facilities, he sees he's going Colossus, and now he knows exactly what the timings are and can react accordingly.
And this is going to be a 5-gate single robo with Robo Bay attached to it, so kind of interesting. It does have that Twilight Council researching blink as well, so interesting order for San as well in terms of the upgrades that are coming up. Now finally San is going to have a pretty good look at his opponent, and cancels the rally point, was headed towards the 3rd, not going there anymore, now finally going to make his way out.
Yeah, this actually could be really... Oh, did San cancel blink or did it finish?
I think it finished. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so this is actually a pretty scary timing if San can go like before that 3rd has managed to pay for itself, basically. If he gets like 2 Colossus and has enough stalkers to protect from the Vikings, he could do some damage. But BratOK responding really well. He's already pre-making Vikings to kind of beat it. And one thing to note is that San already has his +1 attack, and BratOK has his +1 attack, and San is a little bit behind on his.
That's right. So no upgrades. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. I take it back. +1 armor's finished up for San, and he's going over to his 3rd base right now. So it looks like he's going to try to match his opponent's greed with a 3rd base of his own. Gets a little bit interesting, though, because BratOK is obviously going to be mining off of this much faster than San will ever get around to his. And now with 4 mules dropped down, we'll watch this economy here just skyrocket.
Yeah, this is a situation where I think at this point San is the one that has to do something. Because like I said, if Terran gets to the point where they have enough Vikings to kill the Colossus and they get ghosts in order to EMP your army, it can be really hard for Protoss to try to do something on Daybreak in particular, just because there's not a whole lot of wiggle room to try to do harass. It usually just ends up being battle after battle after battle once it gets to about 200 in this matchup. And
looks like we may just get to that point. I mean, it's 137 supply to 126 now. Upgrades coming along for both guys, and looks like 2-2 now coming along for San. That is certainly an advantage that he is carrying, though, as +1 armor is still not quite finished up for BratOK. Has he started a 2nd engineering? Yeah, okay, yeah. So he's on 2nd engineering bay and armory, and just as I say that, +1 attacks for his Vikings coming up, along with +2 weapons for his ground forces.
Yeah, perfect timing for San too. Getting charged, getting Templar archives. He's actually got a good rhythm on this game. And, you know, he's not really preparing for an attack, but he's preparing for the timings that might come. He's like, okay, I need Templar now so that I can deal with Ghosts, and I need Charge now so I can deal with the Bioforce, and now is when I need to start double chronoing my upgrades to catch up because he saw he was behind. He's actually doing a really, really good job of catching up in this game, and even though he's behind in economy, if you can get a really, really good army composition, he'll actually be able to do really well in a little bit.
And I love that he's already switched over, like you said. He knows his opponent is making Vikings now. He saw him out on the field, so he's said, okay, well, Colossi, you're done for now. We're going to switch into Immortals. We're going to have some Templar coming up. Charges finishing at the same time. There's already a couple of Templar on the field now, and Storm is being thrown into the mix. So.
Yeah, and BratOK saw it now, and now he's like, okay, well, now I have to go Ghost. This is actually a really high-level game being played. They're scouting with observers. They're scanning the tech. They know exactly what they're doing, and it's like basically the race to 200 and who is going to have the superior army comp. Because once they get to 200, I think Terran is the one that actually gets more and more advantage as the game goes on, because it's really, really hard to break that. But if Protoss has a good enough army composition to break that, then Protoss resupplies much, much faster than Terran can, and it can really snowball out of control.
And, you know, you're mentioning this is such a high-level game, but, man, these are two incredible players. When you see, you know, these kind of guys matching up, especially with their styles of play, you know, you're going to have a relatively fun game. It's been passive up to this point, but expect some fireworks as long as one person doesn't outright win in the first engagement. Yeah,
this is, he's got the time. He's like, all right, Storm's almost done, and here we're going to have a big clash. This is really going to depend on the EMPs and the Storms, because the Vikings versus Colossus is a wash. The upgrades, SAN is a little bit ahead, not by much, but and the army sizes are very, very similar. This is really going to depend on micro and positioning when they do engage, and I don't really think either one of them is going to be over eager. I think they might just sit back.
Yeah, I was about to say that seems like a logical approach. Looks like SAN going to try and duck in with a couple of zealots, just trying to do whatever he can right now. And looks like he will be able to deny mining for a little while. Picks off a couple of workers, so well worth the expenditure of a couple of those zealots. And he sees the incredible amount of Vikings that are flying overhead. Yeah. That's actually really important because he knows he made the right decision then to cut down on the number of Colossi and start throwing on Archons, Storm, Charge lots, things like that.
Is that observer speed or warp prism speed that's researching?
That's
right
observer
now?
Speed.
Okay, that's pretty smart, but I was going to note if it was warp prism, he might drop it back.
Well, let's see here in the engagement comes. Think of it as if the unit is facing away, if you're looking at the back of the unit. So the wider one is the warp prism, the smaller one's the observer. Anyway, though, BratOK does throw down a little bit of damage. Is able to pick off one of the Colossi. Doesn't suffer too much damage on his own as well. Unit comps for these two players, basically even workers. Oh, great job! Oh my God! SAN was from the side. He throws down so many storms and picks off a ton of bio units. That was actually really well done. He's going to be able to replenish with some pretty decent units as well. Forces a lot of the energy off of any of the available medevacs that are going to be there.
Of them, which is the huge problem. He has so many Vikings, he underproduced medevacs.
Oh my God, so SAN going to roll his way through, though. That was so smart to keep those Templar back off to the side. Is he going to be able to get the engagement he wants, though? Most of the Zealots going down very quickly,
and
of course.
Colossus all went down to the Vikings, so he doesn't have any more AoE damage, and he has to run back.
And those Vikings are largely dead weight now, but of course there's not that many units out for SAN, period. Tried to get another cool flank of a Storm, but wasn't really able to do that much damage.
Yeah, now actually BratOK has SAN on the ropes. SAN's in a little bit of trouble. The thing SAN is going for him is that BratOK's units are really low because he doesn't have enough medevacs.
Right.
But still, that is a very scary army. It's way bigger, and if he manages to do... Oh, watch out for the Storms!
Okay, he actually pins a couple of those Vikings. In fact, the Viking count is reduced very low. Now the Charge lots are coming in and cleaning up everything else, so SAN able to bait perfectly back until he had the right number of units to take these out. So well done from him.
That was a great bait. What Lowly did before in 2 games ago, that's exactly what SAN did. Like, here are my units. Chase, I see you have no medevacs. I see you're low, and then right into Storms.
All right. Well, the EMPs hit a couple of, or one of the Archons up at front. It looks like the Planetary Fortress will hold for now. But that being said, SAN is in such a good spot.
Does this remind you of a game? This reminds me a lot of the Parting MKP game with them over-chasing, getting battles back, over-chasing battles back. That's kind of the game they're playing. They're trying to get each other to over-chase so that they get in a position to strength.
But SAN right now is not over-chasing. He's doing a very nice job of making sure he has a crushing force before he does anything else. Chases a few of those Marines away so we can come back and do economic damage. And it looks like he's just going to descend on the Planetary Fortress. Great time for this as well because BratOK is so far out of position.
Yeah, that Planetary down instantly. I don't think San should fight this. This is going to be actually really close. Oh, good storms, though.
And there it is. GG. Wow. So San evening things up 3-3 for NSHoSeo. Incredibly well done. He's taken 2 games in a row now.